Hi everyone, this is Mallory, and I am getting ready to start another batch of raspberry crest. Now, the first thing that I need to do when I'm thinking to start a batch of raspberry crest is I have to make a crust for a really nice crust. And when I thought about it, um, I decided to go look into an old cookbook that I had written down some of my mom's recipes back in 1979. So when I searched around through that and looked through my recipe book, I found she did indeed have a recipe for pie crust. So I was thrilled, and I'm thrilled that I thought ahead to back in 1979 to write down the recipe and that I still have it. So this is the recipe that I use as the basis for my raspberry crust, because the raspberry crust to start with, you have to have a really nice pie crust. This pie crust is amazing. Light, flaky, um, just works really well rolling it out and things like that. So we're going to make a batch of pie crust. Now this particular recipe will make as you can see from the bottom of it, it'll make 5 to 6 crusts, or quite a few crusts that you could use for an assortment of things. Whatever you want to use it for. It is great for a lot of things. It is great for savory items, great for sweet things. It's just an all around great crust. So let's get started. First thing I like to do is I like to gather all my ingredients and tools and things that I'm going to need um, when making anything that I do. So that way I have everything that I need, and then it's right there where I need it. So in this instance, I've got measuring cups, measuring spoons, a knife, small container. I've got the egg, a lemon. I've got a strainer for the lemon, and I've got a cup of water. I've got some salt, some baking powder, some vegetable shortening, flour, and some clear wrap. I also have sugar there as well. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my measuring cup and I'm going to fill it with I'm going to fill it with about a cup of water. I only need a half a cup for the recipe, but I fill it with to a cup, just just because. No particular really good reason. It's just because that's what I do. And then I put that in the freezer to start off with, because you're going to need cold water when you get to that part. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut and squeeze the lemon juice that I need. The recipe calls for a tablespoon of lemon juice. So I want to squeeze my lemons, get that juice ready, and then I will set that aside until I need it. I'm also going to need 1 egg, slightly beaten. I get a small container that's going to be able to contain my wet ingredients, and I put my egg in it, and then I beat it lightly with a fork, and then I set that aside until I'm ready to use it. And then I get my big bowl, and I'm going to need 4 cups of all-purpose flour. So I measure out my 4 cups of all-purpose flour and put it in my big bowl. These bowls are great. I got them at the Dollar Tree for Easter baskets for the kids one year, and they pretty much left them behind, and they are the most amazing, versatile little bowls I've ever had. They're great. So if you see them at Dollar Tree, you should grab them. Uh, Off subject, but anyway, next thing I'm going to do is I am going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar. Then I add 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and you use 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Now, something that I like to do, and I don't know if you don't necessarily have to do this, but I like to, when I get my dry ingredients all together, I like to just take a fork and kind of mix it, just really lightly, just mix them in all together. It's just something my OCD and demands I do. No, I just think it's better instead of leaving the salt and the sugar and everything all in a clump. It's just kind of all mixed in, which I really liked. I prefer. Then I'm going to need 1 3/4 cups of vegetable shortening. Um, Crisco is probably the best to use. Store brand, as you can see, I have Winn-Dixie store brand shortening, which works really great. I've also got I don't even remember the brand it was, at Save A Lot. That worked great too. Uh, in order of my favorites, it would be most favorite Crisco, next favorite Save a Lot, and I'm gonna say least favorite. Doesn't sound good, but um, it's like best, better, good, whatever. In that form, it's good. The Winn-Dixie shortening is good. But anyway, so you put in 1 3/4 cups of shortening, and you're going to mix that into the flour. You're going to cut it into the flour. Now, I don't have any a fancy pastry cutter tool. Um, all my cooking life, I've really actually been working. My pastry cutter tool is a fork. It works better for me. I just feel I have more control over it. Um, so I prefer to use a fork. So I cut my shortening into my flour with a fork, and I just will keep cutting it in until my flour looks like this, where the shortening is nicely incorporated into the flour, and you don't really have any pockets of just flour left so much. Now, what I'm going to do now is I am going to take my beaten egg. I'm going to set my flour mixture aside, take my beaten egg, and I'm going to get 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And I'm going to pour that right into the beat egg. And I'm going to stir that up a little bit. And then I'm going to take a half a cup of cold water and I'm going to pour that into my egg mixture and stir it up again. Then I'm going to take this mixture, the wet ingredients, and I'm going to pour them into my flour and shortening. And then I'm going to just mix it up. Using my fork again, I'm going to mix it in until it doesn't look as wet. I mean, you still may have a little wet here and there, but overall, it's going to be great. You just kind of keep mixing it in until it looks good and doughy like. And then I'm going to grab. So pretty much we have our dough done. Actually, that's it. That's our dough. And at this point, you can either take it and use it for what you need to use for. Just get your cutting board or your um, pastry sheet or whatever, and flour it and roll it out and use it for what you need it for. Or like I do, I like to prep my crust ahead of time. It's not crust dough, so that I have it available for when I need it. In this case, I get clear saran wrap. I lay out a section of saran wrap on my cutting board, and then I just scrape my dough down onto saran wrap. So I just have this lovely pile of dough there, and then I'm just going to cover it. I'm going to wrap it up with the saran wrap, just all nice and pretty like that. So it's nicely covered. There's no, it's completely covered in the saran wrap. And actually, you can put it in your refrigerator, and actually will keep for up to 3 weeks. So you can use it at any time. And, use a little bit, put it back in the refrigerator, however you want to do it. But in this case, I generally do it like the day before I'm going to do a batch of crust. Then I do my dough up so that way I have it ready for the next day when I'm ready to go. Okay, I thank you very much, and you really should try this pie crust recipe because it is amazing. Thanks, Mom, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoy my crust. Thank you.